Hello guys, today we're going to finish 2.1 Basics of Functions and their Graphs. Here we have example 5, graph the function f of x equal to 2x and g of x equal to 2x plus 4 in the same rectangular coordinate system. Select the integer for x starting with -2 and ending with 2. So please make sure to read your question carefully. Okay, in this case we want our x. So here we have x to be -2, right? -1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay, all we have to do in this case, we're going to plug in the points. I'm going to write f of x equal to 2x, which we just learned how to evaluate f of -2. We're just going to plug it in for x. So here we have -4. And then we're going to write the ordered pair, which is, in this case, that will be -2 and -4. So you do the same thing for all the 5 points. So here, we go ahead and graph this. We plug in all the points and then we graph it. And then the question is why you did 5 points. We know 2 points can make a line. But the question, they're asking you to use the integers from -2 to 2. That's the reason why we plug in all these 5 points. We're just follow the directions. Okay? Alright, let's go ahead also doing the same thing. We graph g of x equal to 2x plus 4. So we're doing the same thing here. Now we're dealing with g of x. We have 2x plus 4. I write down my function. And then I know here I'm going to have ordered pair. Alright, so we're going to put a g of -2. Again, we're just going to plug in the -2 for our x. It's the same thing, we evaluate a function. -4 plus 4 give you 0. Then write down my ordered pair. So that will be -2 and 0. So I'm doing the same thing for rest of them, just really quickly. So now I'm just going to plug in those points. And then I draw g of x using blue color. So for this type of question, just make sure to follow directions and you know how to show work on your test, okay? So if you do not show work on your test, you won't get any points for this type of question. I know when you're doing your math Excel, so you can just plug in 2 points and then you're going to get the answer. You just finish your homework. But again, you won't get any points for your test, okay? Make sure you know how to show work. It's very important for this session, you know how to show work. Alright, let's move on the vertical line test for functions. If any vertical line intersects a graph in more than 1 point, the graph does not define y as a function of x. Alright, for example 6, using the vertical line test, use the vertical line test to identify graphs in which y is a function of x. This is very straightforward. So I'm just going to use this line. So if I'm going to do a vertical line test like this, right? The intercept twice, that means this is not a function. And then here we have another one. This is only 1 time, so we're going to say yes, this is a function. And then for this, alright, we can do this vertical line test for everywhere. Okay, I'm just doing one of them. So here we intercept once, then say yes, it's a function. Then, alright, another vertical line test. So we have 2 intercepts, and then we say this is not a function. Okay, let's move on. Example 7. Basically, what this question wants you to do is you need to learn how to read your graph. Okay, so you can take your time to read this whole thing. You can pause the video and then read the question. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into the part A. So part A, explain why f represents the graph of a function. So we look at this. If you think about it, I could do a vertical line test anywhere, right? Because it passes the vertical line test. So I can write it down as no vertical line can be drawn that intersects the graph of f more than once. By the vertical line test, f is a function. Or you can just write because it passed the vertical line test, so I can say f is a function. Okay, I'm just writing a formal way. Part B, Use the graph to find the f of 8. So what is f of 8? Remember, when you evaluate f of 8, I know this is my x, right? So if I look at this graph, here I have my x. I'm just going to look, where is my 8? I'm going to go ahead and delete this so that way it doesn't confuse some of you guys, okay? So here we have our 8, all right? So I'm just going to extend this a little bit, all right? Here I have my 8, and then all I need to find is what is my y when this is 8. So if I'm going to look, so that is 200, which I can write is equal to 200. Again, I'm going to start, that is my 8, this is my x, right? This is my x. So I'm look at this, all right, and then I intercept my graph. Then I'm going to go to the left side, look what is my y value. So basically the 8 is your input and then 200 is your output. So I find my 200 right there. Okay, so this point actually is just going to be 8, 200. Let's look at part C. So part C we have for what value of x is f of x equal to 350. Okay, this time we want you to ask f of what value, right? Give you a 350 output. So now we have the y value. All we have to look for x. So I'm going to find my y value first. So 350, you know, here we have 200. Between that will be 300. Right here, that's around 300. And then I'm going to go another half. That's probably around 350. Sorry about that. So I'm going to, let me change a different color. So here we have this value. Okay, I'm going to go, assume this is a perfect horizontal line. Okay, so I'm going to look. All right. So which means I meet my graph right here, the intersection. Then I'm going to look, now I'm going to look at what is my x value. So then I find my 6 right there. So which means this, the question mark, I can replace to my number 6. Okay. So if I want to write this as an ordered pair, I can write as 6, and then that will be 350. Okay. This is just your x, and this is just your f of x, which is your y value. Okay. This is ordered pair. Okay. That is how we read our graphs. Okay. Let's look at the next type of question. So here we have identifying domain range from a function's graph. Last year when I taught this, I found many students struggle with this type of question. Okay, let's make sure we pay attention for this part. So if you look, we have a graph. This graph could be any type of graph, okay? If you look this, we have a domain. Anytime we're talking about domain, that is just you always look your x-axis. All right. So the graph, you match this from the left to the right because this graph started right here, right? And then ended right here. So I'm going to just look at this is my domain. Okay. The yellow color is my domain. Let's go ahead and use this. All right. And then we look at range. Range, just always thinking about this is up, down. This is a range. Okay, so this is the range. This is my range. If you look at this graph again, so we have from the lower part to go to the top. Okay, so if I want to write this, let me see. All right, so this way. So again, your domain is left to right, and your range is down, up. All right, bottom to top. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at example 8. So I'm just going to leave the graph right there so we can see. So for this case, let's look again. Our domain, remember, is just your x. So I'm looking at this graph. I know it started -2 and ended to 1. So I'm going to just go to the right here. That is my domain. Then I'm going to use a blue color for my range. So my range, actually, I'm starting the bottom right here and then going up until right there. right? That is my range because that's my graph started from 0 and then ended at 3. Okay, so that is my range. So how can I write a solution? So my domain, I'm just going to write it D. I look at the yellow part. Okay, I started -2. It's a solid circle right there, so which means I need a bracket for this. Started with -2. And then I look at the graph from the left to the right and then ended at 1. Again, the graph 1 is a solid circle, so I have a bracket. Okay, from the left to right, you always write the interval notation form from the left to right. And then now we look at range. Range is from the bottom, it goes up. Okay, so this case, the graph, if you look at started 0. Okay, again, it's included 0 because it's solid circle. And then if I look at this, the graph goes up, up, up until here. All right, that's where it stops. That is my 3. Again, it's a solid circle. We're going to close the bracket. Okay, that is how we find the domain range. Let's go ahead and look at part B. You can go ahead and pause the video and then just try yourself and then see if you get the right answer. Okay, again, we're going to look at what is a domain first, right here. Okay, and then I end it right there. Okay, because I'm matching my graph, so I can realize, so my domain just going to be, I start from the left, so my left is -3, and then I realize this is the open circle, which means it had to be a parenthesis. And then I look at this side, that's a solid circle, that is I end at 2, and then I close the bracket. So now I'm going to look at what is my range. So my range, if you look at here, okay, you look up, down. You started from here, and then you're going up, right? And then you end it at this point, right? That is your range. So I can run your range as you start at this point, okay? If you look at this, that will be 1, open circle, and then it ends at 2. There's a solid circle and then bracket. So that is my range. So let's look at part C. So here we have a graph. Again, you always start with your domain from the left to the right. Okay, let's go ahead. You look at the graph. If you look here, we started, okay, -2 and then ends at this point, 1. Okay, end at 1. So I can write my domain. So you look at -2. Here we match, that is a solid circle, which means it's a bracket. I start at -2, comma, and then I end it at 1. It's a open circle, that means we need a parenthesis. So if I write this in this way, that's my lowest point, and then we go up, up, up until this part. That's where we stopped. Okay, so from bottom up, so we're going to have range. Okay, if you look at right here, is a solid line right here. That means there's no open circle here. That means it's included. Okay, it's included. That means it's bracket 1 and ends at 5. Okay, always from the bottom, which is the smallest number, and then go to bigger number. So 5, again, that is right here. That's a solid circle. So we're going to close it as a bracket. So again, you can try to pause the video and then see if you can get it, by yourself. So we're going to go ahead and write our domain. So domain is, if you look right here, the graph, this go on this side forever, right? So I'm just going to go ahead, highlight this whole thing until this 4, because if I'm going to draw a line right here, this actually doesn't end, right? So let me not going to write that part because that doesn't end, so I don't want to confuse you guys. So let me just write it this way, and then if I want to write this is actually a big arrow right here because it's go on this side forever, right? So I can write it as domain, always remember from the smallest number to the big number. If you think about this line go on forever to the left side, that means your domain going to start from negative infinity, all right? And then for negative infinity or positive infinity, always use parentheses because we cannot include an exact number. Okay, and then from the negative infinity, then we end at 4. Because of 4 is a solid circle, we use brackets. Okay, now we look at range. So range again is from the bottom up. Okay, we started this. If you look, it started at 0 and then go on. This just go on. It's going really slowly. But if you think about this, if I extend this line, okay, let me go ahead and extend this line a little bit just to show you guys. So if I extend this line, it's going to go this is forever, right? It means it's going up forever. So I'm going to go ahead and use arrow for this right here. So I can write my range. We started from the smallest number is 0, which is including because this is a solid circle, and to all the way, even though it's slow, going up forever because the graph just keep rising. So this side, I'm just going to go up forever. So means it's a positive infinity. Okay, that's how we find the range for this case. Let's go ahead and look at the last one. This is a little bit tricky. So let's look at the graph. If I look at this, even though they're separate, the different pieces, they're still one function. Okay, so I can write this from the left. In this case, I'm going to draw. Whoops. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this part, okay, to all the way until here. Because if I'm going to draw this, all right, from the left to right, so I can actually going to start it from 1 and ends at 4. So my domain in this case is from here. 1 is a, if you look right here, 1 is a solid circle. So that means I have to include it. That will be brackets. Okay, to all the way to 4. And then that is open circle. That means it's a parenthesis. So for part E, the range is very tricky because if you think about it, I started 1, right? This point like 1, but then I have to jump to 2 because there's not continuous right here. It's not continued, so there's nothing between. And then I jump the next is 2, and then I jump is 3. You can't really write it as a interval form, so I'm just going to write as y, right, such y equal to 1, 2, 3. Alright guys, thank you for watching the video. Just remember, you can always come to me to ask questions. I'm here to help you.